So the strategy is, how does your mind change your brain? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about. There are 3 tactics, 7 disciplines over 52 days. Now, this is an interesting thing. Todd allowed me to speak on his stage in 2007, where I talked about 7 mindsets to overcome 7 mind blocks. Now, I knew nothing about neuroplasticity. I wouldn't have even known how to pronounce it. But it was interesting when I first picked up on that word about a year and a half ago, that the same mindsets that had changed my brain in 2005 is the same disciplines that it takes to change your mind about anything. How many of you know you need to change at least one habit in your life? You need to change one habit. You use these, here it is, 3 tactics. Get up, gear up, and show up. Say that with me. Get up, gear up, show up. Now I'm going to take you through the disciplines. The tactic is get up. And that's what you need to do. You need to get up earlier than what you are. You tell me you don't have time to read. That's because you're not getting up. You don't have time, you're not getting up. Your competition's already out of the bed and running. You need to get up earlier. I would say it needs at least a 5 in front of it. You laugh. What soldier's going to lay in the bed at 6 o'clock? Are you kidding me? I mean, get up. And then here's the thing. It's not only get up physically, why don't you get up mentally and realize you are called to a cause? Sean Purnell, and you hear me say his name, he is an Army Ranger, and we travel together, and together we handle the American Warrior Initiative, and we travel this country where we give back to wounded heroes all across America, and he talks about the day that he was just a college student, that the deepest thing he thought about was what beer he was going to drink the night before, and he wakes up on September 11th just in time to see the towers fall, and can I tell you, his mission changed. Something happened in my life that my mission changed. His change, he saw people running out of a burning building, and then he saw those first responders, those policemen, those firemen running into the burning building, and he said, I'm going to be one of those. And I am going to join the military, and I'm going to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, and I'm going to go to Ranger School. His mindset changed because he has a mission. You know what? Until you identify your mission, that is the number one thing you need to identify. For me, in 2005, it was quadruple my business. Pretty big mission, right? You've got to identify your mission. And you've got to know that as soon as you identify your mission, there is going to be an enemy that comes against you. That enemy, if any of you have read the book by Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, he talks about resistance taking the form. This is resistance. And he uses resistance with a capital R as your enemy. But here's what resistance looks like. See if this looks familiar to anybody. Fear, self-doubt, procrastination, addiction, distraction, timidity, ego, narcissism, self-loathing. Does anybody have any of those enemies that come against them? Yes, you do. And then rational thought. Let me say this. In November of 2005, when I said I am going to be in the President's Club, that did not make sense, folks. It did not make sense. Rational thought will come against you and say, what the heck? And then friends and family. The number 2 tactic, gear up. Can you imagine a soldier getting up and going out to fight a war and not gearing up? I asked Sean Purnell, what if your men, and he was in Afghanistan for 485 days. Now you think about that. He was in Afghanistan leading the group called the Outlaw Platoon. And I said, what would have happened if your men hadn't worn a helmet? And he said, well, that most of them would have been dead. 85% had head injuries. Excuse me. So how do you put on a helmet? You got to put on a helmet of possibility. And that comes with, you've got to think it's possible. You've got a mission, but you've got to believe it's possible. possible and you're positive about it. And that comes from reading books. You know, you've got your mindset. You need to pour new things in it. That's why I say you need to read. People say, what do I need to read? Oh, you send me a text or an email, I can give you a reading list. I read that one year between 2005 and 2006. By the way, Todd, several of your books were on that list. I own those books. I mean, they became me. Todd Duncan didn't know my name, but he was my mentor as Og Mandino. You take those books and they are mentors to you, and you write it down. A shield for your heart, an intentional plan to implement the mission. So you've got to form new rituals. People, you say, I don't have time for all this, get up earlier. Everybody say, I'm getting up. Say it like you mean it. All right, that's better. You get up, you got time for the rituals. You need rituals. These are the things that are going to build these neuro pathways. So I want you to read, reflect, record. Take a picture of that, because this is what I want you to do. Read, reflect, record. You're going to read something, a book that matters, and then you reflect on it. How can that impact me? And then you record it by writing in a journal. Now, guys, don't freak out. It's not a diary. It's a journal or a planner. Now, Todd Bookspan, I told him, I said, well, I'm sorry. He's got a planner. It's called By Noon. I said, I don't give them that long. They got to do it by 11. I call it 7 by 11. And your morning ritual, your evening ritual, let me tell you this. Every evening before you go to bed, you need to write down the 7 things that you need to do tomorrow that's going to advance your business by at least 1%. You need to get better 1% every day, folks. That first year, I wrote it down. I could never have known how I did it if I hadn't kept a diary, a journal of my travel, my journey. I kept a journal of my journey. And so you read, you reflect, you record. And then you go out and you're going to put your boots on the ground and you're going to implement. You need a plan for the day, the week, and the month and the year. Let's go back to that. How do I go back? You need a battle plan, folks. When you hit the streets, you need to have a plan. There's 2 things that happen when you write down 7 things this evening that you're going to do tomorrow. Number 1, it gets you off your brain. You need a brain to be freed. And number 2, if it's a problem, your brain will start working on it. Then the next morning, you don't have to think about what you're going to do. You're going to do that 7 by 11. That's going to propel your business forward, whatever that is. And then show up. So get up, gear up, and show up. You've got to set priorities, you've got to set focus, and you've got to persevere.